off last week, just a little chazara. We'll give a look at and here in Baks Aleph. Vayav Elokim es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od. Kodesh Baruch Hu saw that everything was great. Vayer v'voker yom hashishi. Right? Okay. I mean, we'll put this in brackets. Okay. Beseder.
Can I ask? I was bothered by something about this Rashi over the week.
Yeah.
If that really, I would think it would have been more appropriate. I apologize, my kids are all home. I think it would have been more appropriate if it would have been Yom HaShvi'i, not Yom HaShishi.
No, good kasha. Maybe we'll touch upon it soon. It's a good question.
Meaning, like, why Shishi? And I was wondering if that might fit into why in the Davar Acher, Rashi was darshan the Shishi specifically.
So let's give a look if Rashi is going to take care of this question. It's a very good point that we did not raise till now, and let's see if Rashi is going to take care of it. So what does it say again in Baks Aleph? Vayav Elokim lekol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od, vayi erev vayi boker yom hashishi. Says Rashi, Yom hashishi hosif hey bashishi. He added hey on the shishi. Bigmar Maisa Breshis, on the conclusion of the creation. Lomar, to say Shehisno Imaim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu conditioned with them. Them means whom? Not Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael wasn't around then. Meaning with Maisa Breshis, Almanat, Sheikablu Alem Yisrael, Chamisha Chumshei Torah. So, Miss Klein, you see it says, Rashi says, Osif hey bigmar ma'aser breshis. When the conclusion of the Bria, Shvi is already after that. Meaning after the construction has been made. So the letter hey was added as an asterisk, as adding a condition. This is only if Am Yisrael will, if Yisrael will accept upon them Chamisha Chumshei Torah. Dover Acher, Rashi again repeats Yom HaShishi. Kulam tluim v'oimdim Ad Yom HaShishi u'Shishi b'Sivan hamuchan lematan Torah. Right? So what's the differences between the two Rashis? The problem is, in the Pasuk, is the same problem. The extra letter Hey. Are you focusing only on the letter Hey per se, or what the letter Hey is bringing out? Those are the two ways how to read the Pasuk. Right? Hashishi or Hashishi. So the first pshat of Rashi is saying, focusing on the letter Hey per se, and the second one is focusing on the word Shishi, which means being emphasized, the big sixth day, which is Shishi b'Sivan Muchal Lematan Torah. So last week you pointed out, Rabbi said, let's go over it again. What are the differences between these two Rashis, excluding the Hey and the Shishi? What else are the differences? Okay, I'm all ears. Okay, it takes a while to get back to it after a week. Again, difference number one, focusing on the letter Hey or focusing on the word Shishi. I wonder what that difference means. That's difference number one. Difference number two, I'll point out, maybe, I don't know if we mentioned it last week, Rashi emphasizing on the first pshat, Begmar Ma'aseh Breshit. Right? Rashi did not mention that on the second pshat.
Focusing on the present versus focusing on some event in the future?
No. The both are focusing on an event in the future. Will Yisrael accept the 5 Chumashim or the day of Matan Torah? They're both something which will be 2,000 and some years later. But Rashi in the first pshat is saying, Bigmar Ma'aser Breshis. That's what he said. He did not say that in the second pshat. Okay. What else do we see the difference? The first Rashi is speaking about Yisrael and the Kabbalah. Yisrael have to be Mekabel the Torah Chamisha Chumshei Torah. The second pshat is speaking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because it says Matan Torah. Matan Torah is the giving over of the Torah. That means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing it. We do the Kabbalah, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu does the Nesina. So even though the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not mentioned in the second pshat, but that's obviously the difference. Another major difference is that the first pshat of Rashi says the word hitna. There was a condition made. Shehitna. And the second pshat of Rashi is not saying the word Tanai, but rather Tluim v'oimdim. Okay? So these were the differences that we pointed out last week. Fine. And we started pointing out that what's the main difference between the two Rashis? You remember what we said last week? What's the main difference between the two Rashis?
One of them is talking about the 6th day of creation, and the other one is about the 6th of Sivan.
Exactly. Perfect. That's a big difference. It's over 2,000-year difference. The first pshat of Rashi is speaking on the 6th day of the creation, Friday, the first Friday in the world. And the second pshat of Rashi is speaking about what will happen in Shishi B'Sivan, which is so much later. Okay. We already could sum up now. What do you think is the main difference between the two Rashis that will explain all what we pointed out before? So first again, since today I want to make sure, today I got to finish on time because I have another shir afterwards. So if you don't mind, we'll try to be a little bit quicker today. The difference, there's a world of a difference between these two Rashis. A world of a difference. When was the creation concluded? Because everybody agrees this pasuk concludes the Bria, because the next pasuk is Vayichul Hashemayim Va'aretz. Well, we'll come back to that in a minute. This pasuk is concluding the Bria. When was the Bria concluded?
Are you saying that the conclusion, according to the first idea, is on the 6th day, but the second idea is by Matan Torah?
Bi diuk. In Israel, they say along B. Bi diuk. And in England, there's a store called Be Kosher. Exactly. Bi diuk. Let me bring out an example. If I give you a very sophisticated computer that you don't know how to use, let's say. So from one point of view, you could say you have a computer at home and you don't know how to use it. Okay, that's definitely one way to look at it. But in a deeper way, you could look at it and say, it's not a computer for you. For you, it's an electric appliance. Because you don't know what to do with it. People call it computer, so you'll call it also computer. But as long as you don't know what to do and what to press and how to start it, it's just some kind of electric piece that people called computer. But for you, it's not a computer. It's called computer because that's what everybody else calls it. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu what is the status of the world throughout those 2,000 and some years between the Bria and Matan Torah? Is it called we have a world already? It was created already on the 6th day, on Friday. It was finished and done. And it's pending on what will happen later? Or no, the Bria is still in limbo. The Bria is not over yet. Because Torah wasn't given yet, so you don't know how to live. So just imagine hypothetically if you and I would have a shmuz on the first Tuesday of the Bria. Impossible because man was created only on Friday. But hypothetically, and you would ask me, I would ask you, what do you say about the world that's being created here? One could say nice. One would say, well, we're still in the middle. There's no sun. There's no moon. That will come only on Wednesday. There's no animals. There's no people. 1 second, we're still in the middle. That's what will be the conversation on that first Tuesday. Is that the conversation for the first 2,000 years of the Bria? Do you have a world and we have to keep the Torah? Or to a certain degree, as long as HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give us Torah, his role as a creator is not yet finished because no one knows how to live. Which button do you press when you wake up in the morning? Do you have a world on Friday, on that first Friday? Or the world only came to be finished on Vav B'Sivan? Once we look at that, let's explain the differences that we have here between Rashi's first commentary and second commentary. How come you think he said the Gemara Meiser Breshis only in the first time and not in the second time?
Because that's really all it was. It was just a Meiser Bereshis.
It's not finished.
It's not finished. In the second commentary, it's not finished yet. That's exactly the point. Exactly. The first opinion says, hey, it's finished. There's a little asterisk added at the end. The contract's finished. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did his role. Now, let's see if we're going to reciprocate. So Rashi adds, Begmar Meiser Breshis. The Dover Acha says, what Gemar? What are you talking about? It's still limbo. Let's give a look at another difference. How can we think the first pshat of Rashi is focusing on the letter Hey, and the second pshat of Rashi is focusing on the word Shishi, which is a result of the Hey? I'll tell you why. The first pshat of Rashi is saying Shishi remains what it always did. Friday. I'm not changing Friday. I'm adding like a little star, asterisk, to say, hey, all this is pending if the other party will reciprocate. But the second shot is taking the word Shishi and saying, this we already pointed out last week, it's not Friday, it's Vav Sivan, 2,000 years later, 2,400 years later. Let's go on. Why do you think the first shot of Rashi is speaking about Kabbalah, which is Yisrael, and the second shot is speaking about Matan, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu? In light of what we're saying now, what would you say?
You see that Hashem is waiting, and the lashon is matan, to give. Tuleim va'imdim is not on our. I mean, it's in God's hands to keep it in abeyance.
No. Say better. You're saying good, but noch besser. Noch besser. According to the first shot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu finished his role as a creator on Friday. It's done. Like you say on the ways, you have reached your destination. The world has created. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did his share. The question is now, will we do our share? Will we reciprocate or not? That's the focus is, what will Yisrael now do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu did finish his role. Now let's see what you're going to do. That's the first shot of Rashi. The second shot of Rashi, no, the Bria is not, who's supposed to conclude the Bria? The Boire. The Bria is not over till Torah is offered to the world. That's it's focusing on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He has to give a Torah. He has to give a sun, moon, food, animals, Torah. Right? That's the first shot said Tanai, and the second shot said Tluim v'oimdim. Let's start with the second shot. It's still in limbo. The Bria is still in limbo, like the Beinonim are in limbo from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. We don't know yet what's going to happen. We got to see how it's going to pan out. The first pshat is saying, Tanai, okay, those who want to yeshivas, this is a yeshiva knowledge. It's called Mishpat et Noim. Tanai means that you do a full, complete deed, and it's pending on what will happen in the future. But we did everything now. Like in a marriage, you can mekadesh isha with a ring and edim on the condition that tomorrow will rain. Now a full Ma'aseh Kedushin was done, pending on if it will rain tomorrow. That's called Tanai. The deed has been over, and it's depending on a future development. That's called the Tanai. Tului v'oimdim means in limbo. It's not over yet. So what's the difference between the two pshatim of Rashi? Is it called that you have a world before Matan Torah and just lacking something very important, or you don't have a world yet? The second shot of Rashi, we could call it's much more yeshivish. On Teireh, without Torah, you don't have a world. There's no world yet. And the first shot says, no, you have a world, but it's pending on Torah. But without, and if Israel won't receive the Torah, the world will be then destroyed. Not incomplete, it was complete, but will be destroyed. So the question is there a world or there isn't a world for those 2,000 years? Isn't that called a world of a difference? There's a world, there is no world, a world of a difference. Right? Now, Rabbi say, I want to ask a question here though. And this is what I want to focus on today. The following pasuk is this one. The world was created, finished. According to the second shot, there was no Friday that week. Because Shishi means Shishi B'Sivan. So Yom Echad is Sunday. Yom Sheni is Monday. Yom Shlishi is Tuesday. Yom Revi is Wednesday. Yom Chamishi, Thursday. Yom Hashishi is Shishi B'Sivan. And then comes Shabbos. So a week without Friday. Could that be? Rabbi, so where are we stuck now according to the way we do it? On stage 3. Let me read the pasuk. Yom Hashishi is Shishi B'Sivan, and the next pasuk Vaychul Hashemayim Ba'aretz. So you went ahead 2,400 years, and then you came back.
You know how it is. That first Friday must have been a huge rush.
I hear. Okay, that's one shot. Reb Chaim, where are you from?
Silver Spring, Maryland.
Did you start already?
No,
teaching?
not yet. September 8th, Bezrat Hashem.
Wow. Okay. Bezrat Hashem. Batzlacha G'dayla to everyone.
Amen.
So we say this question of stage 3, and this happens a lot with Dover Achers. Here's a Maharal that I want to share with you that I promise you, once you get this cold, it will change a lot of things that you're going to be doing. Let me, for a second, I just want to make sure. This will change a lot of ways. Yeah, one second. I pressed the wrong button by accident. Let's look into this Maharal. There's a Maharal that the Maharal himself gets so excited about it. Let's give a look. That will answer this kind of question and similar questions. And let me give you, before I show you the Maharal, let me show you another pasuk. Here, in Pashas Yisro. What does it say? Vayichad Yisro al kol hatoiva asher osa Hashem liYisrael asher yitzilo miyad Mitzrayim. This is after Yisro heard the reports from Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayichad Yisro. What does Vayichad mean? Not a common word. Says Rashi, Vayichad Yisro, Vayismach Yisro. Zel pshuter. There's the Pashut Pshat. Yisro was happy on all the good that Hashem bestowed on Am Yisrael. So let's go over this stage. What was Rashi's question?
Why is the Torah using?
The word Vayichad is what does the word Vayichad mean?
Yeah, what does Vayichad mean? That's a legitimate question. What does this word mean?
Well, you could say, why did we use the unusual language?
No, that would be stage. I don't know what the word means though at this stage. I can't ask if it's unusual.
Okay.
Maybe it's an unusual concept. I don't know. Listen, Rashi does that as well. I push it, do not know what does the word mean. Says Rashi, Vayismach Yisro. Yisro was happy. Zeh pshutai. So what was the question? The question was, what does this word mean? And the answer is, he was happy. Good. Stage 3, does it fit into the pasuk?
Yes.
Yeah, fits it very nicely. Yisro was happy on all the good that Hashem did for Am Yisrael. Very good. Rabbi said, before I go on, one issue. Why is Rashi quoting the word Yisro in his Dibur Matril? Why didn't he just quote the word Vayichad? If that's what your problem is, so just quote that. There are Rashis which are just one word. That would be that shows that maybe Rashi has something else in mind. Because if the problem is only the word, what does the word mean, Vayichad? He should have said Vayismach. Vayichad only. Look, would there be anything missing?
No.
No. Right? So, but Rashi did write Vayichad Yisro. Again, these are all little tricks that you use in your class. If the focus is only the word Vayichad, say Vayichad. The word Yisro is unimportant. Let's go to Rashi's second shot. Umed Rishagoda. Nasa Psoro Chidudin. His flesh became goosebumps. Meitzer al Ibud Mitzrayim. It hurt him that the Egyptians got such a mapala. Hainu da Amri Inchi. This is what people say. Giyora ad Asara Dore Lotivza Aroma Ba'ape. A convert, even 10 generations later, do not insult a non-Jew in his presence. People identify with their roots. People identify where they come from. And it hurt Yisrael a little bit what happened here. Right? that the Egyptians had such a mapala. Let's go through the stages. Why? What was Rashi bothered by? What does Vayichad Yisro mean? Okay, the second shot is he had goosebumps. How come he's not happy with the first shot?
Because it's an
Because
unusual word.
That's the question of why that word and not by
Why
Yisro.
that word? The word Vayismach is so much more common. If the Torah meant Simcha, say it. Why such a funny word? What Reb Chaim said before. That's what Rashi was bothered by. So therefore he says it doesn't mean Vayismach. Rather, it means from the word Chidudin. It means he had goosebumps that the Egyptians got so lost. According to Rashi's second shot, it's understood why it says Yisrael, meaning Yisrael felt bad. Because it's Yisrael, he was a convert. That's how come Rashi probably quoted the word Yisrael to entertain that second shot. Okay, so let's go through the stages. What was the question? What does Vayichad Yisrael mean? What does it mean? Goosebumps. Stage 3.
Why is it no Dava Acher? Why is it no Dava Acher in the second Rashi?
Medrash Hakot is called Dover Acher. How come he says Dover? Sometimes he says Medrash Hakot, and sometimes he says Dover Acher. I don't know. But good point. I'm sure there's a reason. Now let's read stage 3. Does the pasuk flow? Yisrael had goosebumps because all the good that Hashem did to Am Yisrael.
No, really.
No, that's fine. It should have said Vayichad Yisrael al hara asher asa Hashem lemitzrim. Elamai, you're going to say it means with the yeshiva shatham. If it was done good for Israel, that means it was done bad for the Egyptians. But call a spade a spade. You know how many times you have these kind of questions in Rashi? I'm not hundreds of times. And you discovered at stage 3, which is reread the pasuk again and see if Rashi's interpretation fits in with the flow of the pasuk. The first shot fit in very nicely. Yisrael was happy for all the good that Hashem bestowed on Am Yisrael and saved them from the Egyptians. Beautiful. But the second shot that Yisrael felt pain and Yisrael had goosebumps, Meitzer al Ibud Mitzrayim, he felt bad that the Egyptians were so clapped. So it doesn't mention that in the pasuk. So how does Rashi fit into the pasuk? Now, if I say again, these questions you have on Rashi when you do stage 3, and then you're going to discover a whole new world. It has to fit into the pasuk because Rashi wrote it on the pasuk. But the pasuk is not emphasizing the main point, according to Rashi's second shot. To answer this kind of question and others, let's look at the Maharal. This is a Maharal that he himself gets excited by it. I could tell you that in my life, I use this Maharal hundreds of times. He himself in the Gur Aryeh uses it for 30 times, but you could use it much more. On the pasuk of Vayichad Yisrael, there's no Maharal on that one. But what he's going to say in Baks Vav will help you in Vayichad Yisrael and in countless other times. What is it talking about? Let's give a look. Let's go back a second to Baks Dalet. Vateled Ada et Yaval. Ada gave birth to Yaval. Hu haya avi yoshev oel umikneh. Ada gave birth to someone called Yaval, and he was avi yoshev oel umikneh. What does that mean? Says Rashi. Avi yoshev oel umikneh. Hu haya harishon. He was the first. Lero'ei behemot b'midbarot. The first kind of Bedouin of shepherds. V'yoshev oalim chodesh kan v'chodesh kan v'shvil mir'eh tzono. For the grass. U'keshekala mar'eh b'makom zeh holech v'tokea olo b'makom acher. He was the first portable shepherd. The first Bedouin, and he's called Avi because he's the first one. U'medrash Haggadah. The Medrash Haggadah says, no. There's something much more serious happening here. Again, why does Rashi say Medrash Haggadah, not Dover Acher? Good kasha. Medrash Haggadah. Boine batim la'avodah zarah. He was building homes for avodah zarah. Kumod da'at Omar, like you say elsewhere in Yechezkel, Sema lakina a mikne, a mekane. He was an idol worshiper. How did you get it from it? From the word mikne. This word. What does that be? He was an idol worshiper. But the pasuk that would be mekane with the aleph at the end. And mikne has a chirik under it. Mekane has a shva under it. Are you trying to say that the word mikne means mekane? Avodah Zarah is called always, it has to do with kina, so to speak. It arouses the kina of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. According to the second shot, are Chazal saying that the word mikne means mekane?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's very schwer. So let's give a look at the Gur'aya. And Rabbi say, this is a Gur'aya for life. This is not a Gur'aya, a local one. This is a Gur'aya for Chumash everywhere you go. Here in Baksvav, you'll see how the Maral himself treats this word. Boneh batim la'avodah zarah. Aval gam dikan ksiv hamikne behei. So it's written with the letter hey. How could you say it's what means mekane with the aleph? Kama shekosav amem bechirik. Mikne, the Baal Korah reads it with the chirik. Umem shel mekane beshva. So what's going on over here? Now, our boy said, before you go on, I want to share with you something. Before you go on. All the times that Chazal say, Al tikri this, tikra that. Al tikri banaich, tikri bonaich. Why should I do it? Ushmatim is a matzahs, not matzahs, mitzvahs. Michamocha ba'elim Hashem, it really means Michamocha ba'ilmim Hashem. When Chazal do these games, Chas v'shalom, what does it mean?
It fits in better with the text.
So how come the Torah didn't say it?
I don't know. I want to know.
Okay, so this is what the Gur'ari is going to tell us. And this Gur'ari again is, again, I don't want to exaggerate too much. It's a game changer. The Gur'ari that we're going to see now is a game changer. It's the Maharal, we say. By the way, a week from today, Yud Ches El, Sunday night, is his yard side. The yard side of the Maharal. Chai El, it's a big day, Chai El.
Can I ask a question? There's a difference between when Chazal says Al Tikri Banayach Al Banayach, it's meant to be read both ways. It makes sense both ways. I mean, that's different than a real Kriya Ksiv where it's like totally different.
They say Al Tikri. They say don't read it this way. They don't say read it this way and that way.
But don't we read it both ways?
Okay, so let's try to understand it. But Chazal told me not to. So what's going on over here? So Rabbi say, let me give you an example to show this that you saw. If let's say two people are talking to each other, Reuben's talking to Shimon, and Reuben tells something to Shimon, but while he's talking to him, he says a point, and he's winking with him with his right eye, going like this with his right eye. What does that usually mean?
He's joking.
I'm saying one thing, but I also mean something else, in addition to what I'm saying, right? The Torah also lots of times wants to wink to us, to say one thing, but they add a wink. How do I know when the Torah is winking to me? So here the Maharal comes and says, whenever the Torah does not use the best word, rather the second best word, since the Torah is perfect, it comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Whenever the Torah is not using the best word, it's winking to you and saying, hey, I'm saying this, but I also mean something in addition to that.
Wow.
What should it mean? So when a person's winking to you, you could have some kind of understanding. When the Torah is winking to you, what should it be? Here comes the concept which is called Lashon Noifel Alashon. The Torah purposely is using a second best word because it rhymes, it sounds, it's similar to another word. Not identical to the other word, but it sounds like it. That's good enough. That's called Lashon Nofel Alashon. Rashi quotes it a few times in Chumash. Let me give you an example. When Menachem Begin became prime minister in 1977, I think most of you were not even born then. Okay, I remember it. And the Time magazine, the following week, which was never known for liking us too much, had the cover story, Menachem Begin. And it was said, his picture, a painting, Trouble in the Promised Land. That's what it was on the cover. And then they wrote the article, which was viciously against him. And they said Menachem Begin, and they wrote in brackets, rhymes with Fagin. Fagin is the guy from, Oliver Twist, was it that one?
Merchant of Venice.
Merchant of Venice.
Oh, no, you're right. No, it's Oliver Twist. It's Oliver Twist.
Okay,
Oliver
good. And it rhymes with Fagin. And the whole Jewish world was up in arms. That's what you have to make the rhyming to Fagin? You can't find another word that rhymes it? Dafka, a negative individual called Fagin. Okay. 2-3 months later, Menachem Begin came the first time as a prime minister of Israel to New York. The first time he came to meet President Carter. And he said already at the press conference that he had at Kennedy Airport, he spoke a very, very good English with a very Polish accent, but he spoke a very good English. And he said, I'm so happy to come to the United States of America, the leader of the free world, the biggest democracy in the world, blah, 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 blah. My name is Menachem Begin. That's what he said. And it does not rhyme with Fagin. That's what he said. Now, the Mechila for Menachem Begin does rhyme with Fagin. I mean, listen, Fagin, it rhymes. You could say, I have nothing to do with Fagin. Fine. But to say it doesn't rhyme, it does rhyme. Let's get it. Manasot, Fagin rhymes. It does. That's a story. Just to bring out the idea, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes will use not the best word to allude, to send a link to another understanding. But that other understanding is not replacing the first shot. It's adding to the first shot. That's the idea here. The word that's written is important. But if it would have meant only what's written, there's a better word the Torah would have used. So how come the Torah didn't use the best word? The Torah is perfect. It comes from Hashem. The Torah purposely lowered its standards, so to speak, and mentioned not such a great word because we want to use a word that rhymes with Fagin. And the best word does not rhyme with Fagin. Now let's see how the Maral says this inside. Let's give a look. Boneh batim לעבודה זרה. אבל גם תכאן כסיב המקנה בהי, וגם מה שכסוב המם בחיריק ומם בשבא. So he brought one answer, and now he says, אבל אני אומר לך, I want to tell you, דרך חכמים בפירושם ובדרשותיהם. I want to tell you how Chazal work. I'm always getting excited learning this Maral because it's so yesodistic. It's so fundamental. אבל אני אומר לך, דרך חכמים פירושם ודרשותיהם. והוא כלל גדול, rule of thumb, לכל הדרשות שהם על דרך זה. וכבר גילה לך רש"י, כי דרך הכתוב לכתוב לשון נופל על לשון. והנה, גם חכמים מודים, also Chazal agree, שפשט הכתוב יושב אוהל ומקנה כמשמעו. It's a pashut pshat that he was a shepherd. Nothing to do with Avodah Zarah. אבל דקדקו הם מלשון הכוסוב, but they were very careful in the terminology of the pasuk. שהיה ראוי לכתוב, it would have been more appropriate to write a better word. הוא היה אבי כל רועה צאן. Mikne is not usually the right word for sheep. Mikne means property. כדכתיב תמיד בכל המקומות. Everywhere the Torah mentions צאן. ולמה כתב לשון כזה הוא היה אבי ישון מקנה? So why did the Torah write not a perfect word? If you just meant to say the first shot, that he was the first shepherd doing whatever he did, so why do you call mikne? The word son, ro'et son would have been much better. Why did you use a word which is not the most perfect word to use? Because the Torah wants to wink. Ella, mipnei shu lashon nofel al lashon. בוודאי רואה מקנה שלו לא היו אלא לעבודה זרה. Ki avodah zarah shaya oved, the avodah zarah that he worshipped, haya b'mikneh, was with these sheep. V'zeh mi'inyan avodatam. They used the sheep for avodah zarah. Vayu kol ma'asav b'ro'ei mikneh la'avodah zarah. ולפיכך כתב לך יושב אוהל ומקנה, לשון נופל על לשון, כי זה המקנה, this sheep היה מקנה. והשתא תשפר, now it's understood, ואין צריך לצאת חוץ מן הפירוש. You don't have to go forsake the pashut pshat. וכן אמרו חז"ל, the Gemara itself said, בכל התורה, אין המקרא יוצא מידי פשוטוי. The pshat always remains. V'achinami pshuto kayam, the pshat remains. El hadrash, כמו שאמרנו לך. ודבר זה הוא שורש גדול, ומפתח גדול. להבין מדרשי חכמים שהם בנויים בפשט המאמר. I do not know another maral that says the three superlatives, klal gadol, shorish gadol, maftech gadol, in one go, like he did over here. Let's sum up. What is the main chiddush of the maral? Let's define it. What is the main chiddush of the maral? The drash is not coming to replace the pshat. The pshat always remains, even according to the drash. But if the Torah would have meant only the pshat, they would have used a better word. And it did not use the best word. So therefore, there's another link here to something else happening here, but not replacing the pshat, but adding the pshat. And mikra yoytze midei pshuta means you never could forsake the pshat. The pshat always remains. The drash is just saying, but if it would have meant only the pshat, then there would have been a better word used. So in addition to the pshat, there's something else happening here. What's the relationship between the pshat and that extra something happening here? That's something that we're going to have to see soon. Okay?
But that's between Medrash Agada and Davar Acher?
Yeah.
Meaning Davar Acher is that the two answers don't go. But Medrash Agada, they both fit in?
No. Davar Acher also means that. But you want to say that's the chiluk between Medrash Agada and Davar Acher? I don't know. I got to check it. This has to be checked too. It could be.
Well, this wouldn't make sense, but I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I hear.
I'm also wondering on this, does this mean then that usually when we have a Davar Acher, so it's because there's a problem with both pshat, but here, is there still a problem with both, or is that one is pshat and then the second one adds another dimension to that?
That's right. Exactly. You know what, boys? Let me show you. Let's, before we go into this amazing chiddush of the Maharal, I can tell you, I'm teaching Chumash for who knows how many years. I quoted this Maharal hundreds of times in my life. Let's see how we're going to work it with Vayichad Yisrael. You know what? Let's do it now. Remember we got stuck on the second shot with the pasuk? Vayichad Yisrael. Shot number 1 says he was happy. Shot number 2 says Medrash Agada. His basa became goosebumps because it hurt him that the mitzvah had such a mapala. It doesn't fit into the Lashon pasuk. Vayichad Yisrael al kol hatoiva. We're stuck in stage 3. Let's apply the Maharal that we just now learned. Tell me, what would you answer? Also, the Medrash Agada agrees that what?
He was still happy for Klal Yisrael, but at the same time, he was distressed over what happened to the mitzvah.
Exactly.
And this happened when he heard about the good that Hashem did for Klal Yisrael.
Exactly. Meaning, you know what? Sometimes it happens to us that you're happy, but not 100% happy. There's still something inside that bugs you. It happens to us a lot. Vayichad Yisrael means he was happy. The second pshat also agrees to that. But if it would have meant only happy, it would have said Vayismach Yisrael, because Vayismach says in the Torah, in the Tanakh, hundreds of times. So it cannot mean only Vayismach, because if it would have meant only Vayismach, the word Vayismach would have been called in here. So it's alluding to something else happening simultaneously, meaning he was happy, but if you would have done to him an ultrasound in his stomach or whatever, you would see he's 93% happy. It wasn't a full simcha. There was 7% something that bothered him. And the Torah wants you to know he was happy, but not completely. You know, sometimes you're happy, but you have to like put on a little bit of fake smile because there's something inside that bugs you. That's what happened here to Yisrael. He was definitely happy for the good that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bestowed on Am Yisrael. Definitely. He was definitely happy, but not 100%. What bothered him? It hurt him what happened to the Mitzvah. If I think that Vayichad means only goosebumps, so then it doesn't fit into the pasuk. But the Rambam is telling us Chazal are not replacing the pshat; they are adding to the pshat. He was happy, but not b'shleimus. Oy mikne, he was a shepherd, but it doesn't mean only shepherd. It also means that he used these sheep for Avodah Zarah. Because if it would have meant only sheep, it would have said son, not mikne. But mikne sounds like mekane. Good enough. So now what are you going to ask? Yeah, but mekane is with an aleph at the end and mikne is with a hey at the end. I never said that the word mikne means mekane. I just said the word mikne is alluding to the word mekane. And it does. Hi begins with a B and fagins with a F. So what? But they rhyme. To rhyme, it doesn't have to be identical. That's called Lashon Nefel Lashon. Right? Vayichad means vayismach. But I want to refer also to another word, chidudin, which means goosebumps. That's what happened here. Rabbi say, whenever we see Chazal mentioning the Yesod of Atikrizi, don't read it X, read it Y. That's what they mean. Of course, X remains. So what does it mean, Al-Tikri? Don't think it's only the first shot. There's something else happening here. For example, Ushmarte Mesamatzis. Say, Rashi brings it down in the Mechilta, Al-Tikri Matzis Ela Mitzvahs. Mitzvah Habali Yotra Al Tachmitzena. Let's go through the stages here. But it says Ushmarte Mesamatzis because he came out of Mitzrayim. So how does mitzvahs fit into here? But if you use what we just now learned with the Maral, it's Pashat. Of course, the pasuk means Ushmatim Matzahs, watch the matzahs. But watch it from what? From theft? From fire? From chometz? Obviously from chometz. So why doesn't it say Tishmul mi chometz? The Maral explains it on the spot there. Ushmatim Matzahs, that's not the clearest way how to say this point. Because it means protect the matzahs from what? From water? From what? From chometz. Say chometz. Tishmelu mi chometz. There won't be any confusion. So the Torah purposely wrote the word matzahs to allude to another thing, which is the word mitzvahs. And matzahs and mitzvahs are spelled the same. And there's a reason for that in itself as well. The Maral speaks about how come matzahs and mitzvahs are almost the same word. But again, it's not replacing the word matzahs. Matzahs alluding to something that has matzahs a mitzvah to mitzvahs in general. But it doesn't mean only that. Atikri banaich lebonaich, always that's what it means. Okay? This is called stage 3. Let's go back to our pasuk here that we have in Vayichul Hashemayim V'Aretz.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
But it seems that even in these cases, there still is that davar acher principle that there was a problem with that original shot level, so that there is a second drash level, even if they're working together.
For sure. There is something not sufficient in the first one. It's true, but it's not enough. That's exactly
what about an actual kriyuk seed?
An actual what?
An actual kriyuk seed. Like not an al-tikre, but like a real kriyuk seed.
Listen, I got to check it. I got to go over each case, but usually there's a connection here.
Usually there is some drash of the original thing that's written.
The Kriya Ksiva is really another parsha. That's the Amos.
Okay, fine.
That's something else a little bit, but it could be it's Nogea. It could be it's Nogea. Let's go also to here over here, to our pasuk that we have in Breshis. If Yom HaShishi means Vav B'Sivan, no Friday that week? Well, a week without Friday. Kind of hard. How do you read the next pasuk? Let's use what the Maral taught us now. For sure, Friday, Shishi means Friday. I'm not changing the pshat. But if it would have meant only Friday, then what would the Torah write?
Shishi.
Shishi without the hey. So it can't mean only Friday. There has to be something else here. What is that something else? So the first shot is a Tanai on Chamisha Chumshei Torah. The second shot is it's alluding to that this Friday concludes the Bria, but to a certain degree, the real conclusion will happen only 2,448 years later. But does that mean that Shisha means only Shisha B'Sivan? No. Of course, it still remains Friday, even according to the second shot. But it cannot mean only Friday. That's what he's saying here, the moral on this Nakuda. And again, the first shot is, it's called Chamisha Chumshei Torah. By the way, the word Chumash, if you have a chance to focus on it, it's a very strange word. Because there's 5 Chumashim, so each one's called a Chumash. So according to that, Shisha's Durham, each Seder should be called Shoshana. Or Shishita. Because together it's 6, so each one is 6-ish. You don't have that elsewhere.
Chumash.
You'll have it only by Chumash. Together the Chamesh, so each one is called 5-ish. 5-ish is the name in Yiddish. 5-ish. What's up, Chad? You don't find this elsewhere. That the fraction carries the name of the whole because it's the fraction of that whole. But it has to do with the number 5, which we'll one day speak about Beis Dimnut.
Why wasn't Rashi's first explanation good enough? It explained the hay.
Oh, let's think about it. How come Rashi's first explanation wasn't good enough? It explains the letter hey. The second shot understands that the letter hey is hey idea. It's bringing out the following word, meaning a stam letter you could focus on, but the hey is really corresponding to the word shishi. Could you overlook that? That's what hey idea does. Okay.
But why is the first answer the better answer?
Because it's more pshat. It's more pshat, and it's saying Friday, it means Friday and remains Friday. Adding that it means 2,440 years later, okay. But there's a problem with the first pshat, that the word, you're just focusing on the letter hey, you're not touching the word shishi. A hey idea connects with the word that it's addressed on.
And according to the first pshat, why didn't it say it for any other day then?
There's no need to say another day. Why should we say another day?
As in, it could put the hey idea for any day if the drash, if the...
No, but Rashi says Gemara Ma'aser Bereishis when it's concluded. The Gemara Ma'aser Bereishis when the Bria is over and in the middle.
Does the second teretz have a chisaron?
I'm sorry?
Does the second answer have a chisaron?
Yeah, that's referring to something which is kind of far away from Shat, 2,440 years later.
So I don't understand how each answer has a chisaron.
Right.
How can one add them together to have a solution?
That's what Rashi does.
But how does that work?
It works.
How?
Because it's a minor problem that Rashi is willing to live with.
Yeah. Can I ask a different question?
Yes.
So according to what we learned from the Maharal about a medrash not replacing pshat, but in addition to, in step number 3, do we have to then fit it back into the pasuk, the medrash, or in this case, a davar acher?
Yeah.
Or can we get away with not really doing it, so to speak?
No, it always has to fit into the pasuk, but that's the way how it fits in. That's one way. It always has to fit in, because Rashi did not write his commentary in Japan, he wrote it on the Chumash. So it has to fit into the Chumash, always. Rule of thumb.
It could fit in combination with the first answer of Rashi?
That's right. Now here there's room to think, is there any intrinsic relationship between the Pshat and the Medrash? This is something that I do not have enough clarity myself. Let's say in Mikneh, it is. The sheep was used for Avodah Zarah. Wow, they're really intertwined with each other. That's what happened. The sheep was used for Avodah Zarah. Let's say in Yisrael, he was happy, but he had goosebumps. Is the happiness and the goosebumps somehow intrinsically related? Or no, just two feelings that he had simultaneously.
And also not easy to read back into the pasuk.
What?
And not so easy to read back into the pasuk by Yisrael.
No, it is. Vayichad means Vayismach. It remains.
No, but in the second shot.
According to the second shot as well. That's what the Mahal's telling us.
Okay.
It does mean it was b'simcha, but not a full simcha. Okay. It was a 93% simcha.
Okay.
That's essential. That's the whole gain of the Maharal.
Okay.
Of course, like this kind of Rashi that we saw in Baks Aleph is a classical example of the 4 stages of Rashi. Let's go over it in a nutshell again. What was Rashi bothered by? The letter Hey. Fine. What did Rashi answer? The letter Hey is serving a purpose or alluding to the Chamisha Chumshei Torah or stressing the word Shishi of Shishi B'Sivan. What are the differences between the two Pshatim of Rashi? This is all part stage 2. Okay, what we spoke about, when is the conclusion of the Bria? On Friday or on Matan Torah. Fine. And all the differences that we pointed out, that's all stage 2. How come he said Gemara Ma'aser Bereishis the first time, not the second time? How come he calls Yisrael and the first time and the second time he says HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Why is it called Tnai versus singing in limbo? That's all one big the second stage. The third stage was, does it flow into the pasuk? Well, if you look only at this pasuk, yeah. But when you go to the next pasuk, it doesn't go on. And it means there was no Friday that week, which is kind of hard to swallow. Here comes the Maharal. Stage 4, what's Rashi telling us? Well, there's a world of a difference here between these two Rashis, as we mentioned. This is a real philosophical issue. What definition do you give to a life without Torah? Is it a life but missing something very important? Or it's not called a life? That's the second shot. Without Torah, there's no life. It's not that you're missing something extremely important. You're missing life itself. That's what the second shot's saying. And this is something that you could develop very much so. Issue, again, this is something that you got to be politically correct. But like amongst us, I could say, living a life which is transgressing Ratzon Hashem on a daily basis is not a life worthwhile to live. That's what the second shot's saying. Because you came here for a certain role. The Rabbeinu Yonah says it explicitly in the Shari Tshuva. He brings a pasuk on Mishlei on that. But if a person lives a life ignoring what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for him, so as long as he's alive, he can still do tshuva and Yetz Hashem ad yom moisei techakeloi. But Chas Hashem, if he died already like that, and you look back and you say, was this a life worthwhile living? It's very painful, but no. If it's transgressing the will of Hashem, no. That's not part of the deal. All this and more, you can bring out in a class. You got to be, understand your student body, you're the parents, and so on, to see if this will go by, if they'll get upset about it. Okay, you got to be also politically correct. In England, they're a little bit too much politically correct. I like more the American Israeli style. Dugri, okay? But I understand also sometimes you got to, so these are issues that, this is one Rashi, and again, this Maharal, he himself quotes it, as I mentioned before, in the Guraye over 30 times. He says, look what I wrote up in Oil Mikneh. But he doesn't say anything on Beichad Yisrael. I guess because he said, like, I told it to you once, fine, now use it yourself. You have the license to use it. And again, I do not know of any other Maharal that says Klal Gadol, Shorish Gadol, Moftech Gadol, and one shtickle. Bemis. He could say Shorish Gadol, but all three in one time, that's what this Maharal is teaching us. And it comes in handy in many other things. Now, Rabbi Isai, I also, L'chvod Rosh Hashanah, so maybe next week, Rabbi Walter, should we continue next week?
You're happy to.
Is there any possibility to maybe move to more of lunchtime in America when more people might?
Okay, what's called lunchtime in America?
11 and 3 in America.
11 and 3.
No, I'm just kidding. 12 and 1, maybe 12 and 1.
Between 12 and 1?
No, I teach till 1. Please no.
I like it the way it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to be teaching next week.
Right. Rabbi, so you know what? Just a little taster for next week. Let me show you what we're going to do. Let's start a little bit.
Can I just say that I'm gonna record it. So if anyone can't make it, the recording will be there.
Okay.
Thank you, because the week after that, I'm starting to teach.
Right. Yes. Okay, Rabbi say. So give a look here in Bak's Tet. After these words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving a trial to Abraham. After which words? So Rashi says two pshatim. Let's give a look in Baksiud. אחר הדברים האלו. יש מרבותינו אומרים אחר דבריו של Satan. That the Satan was complaining. We'll see next week what was his complaint. יש שומעים אחר דבריו של ישמעאל. How come Rashi didn't say Kipshutai after the previous parsha that Avimelech did a bris with Avraham Avinu? Why not? Why not the push-up shot? Another question: how could you say Eile on words which were never mentioned in the Torah? How would you translate the word Eile in English?
These.
These. Could you say these? These is that you're pointing a finger. How could you say these on words that were never mentioned? The Satan words were never quoted in the Torah, and Yishmael's words were never quoted in the Torah.
Yeah, very.
All this and more after these brief messages. Okay, that's how we do it in America. Okay? I remember when I was a kid, Schaefer is the one beer I have when you're having more than one. I don't know if Schaefer exists anymore. Does it exist, Chaim?
No, not so much.
Schaefer beer. Does it still exist? On the Knicks games? Oh, yeah. So maybe we're going to play it by ear what to do it next week at what time. I think we'll do one more meeting. We'll do one more meeting, and then we're going to wish each other Be'ezer Hashem a ksiva, v'chasima taiva, and a good Gebench Diyar. I'm so sorry, boys, that I have to run out now. All the best.
Thank you.